What's going on in the market? It is March 2024. So the housing market is still standing strong. Rates are about 7% right now. We're still seeing a good demand. I think that's going to carry true for a while now. Low inventory, but even though we did see a little bit more kick on this month as the weather kind of warmed up a little bit, even though it's a little bit of that cold spell again. So, we're seeing some more inventory come on. I think we will see more inventory and a little bit more demand come in, but I still think it will be a seller's market out there as rates stay in this realm. I think eventually, maybe 3-4 months out, rates will probably drop a little bit. So, one of the primary drivers of the increase in the yield over the 2023 was inflation expectations. A lot of times people are expecting, these inflation numbers to come down. They were still a little bit higher out there. That's kind of what shot those interest rates back up a little bit. Overall, when you look at, inflation and CPI history causing rate cuts, today, we are at our probably second highest point in the last 40, 50 years, other than the 1970s and 80s of the amount of inflation that we do have. So, it's there. We definitely have to address it, but hopefully, we can kind of get those inflation numbers down, which will then bring interest rates down. Right now, Fannie Mae's projections for quarter 2 is 6.3, quarter 3, 6.1, quarter 4, 5.9. So we're still going to hover around that 6% interest rate. As you remember, there was a talk it was going to be in the 5s. Maybe we hit those high 5s by the end of the year, but I think we're going to hover around that 6%. So when we look at kind of what's going on, where do people see the economy? Right now we have more people thinking that we're going to have a soft landing versus a recession, which is a good thing. The overall economics of the country, job numbers are good. Inflation is up, means people are still spending. There is still a good amount of money in the system out there. So we'll see how all this progresses. But overall, the economy is still kind of chugging along with it. Like I said, unemployment, they're expecting to drop even more. They think it's going to probably peak out at the end of this year. But we'll see where that goes. We'll see what happens with things overall. Jacob Channel, senior economist from LendingTree, said, at least right now, the fundamentals of the economy, despite some hiccups, are doing pretty good. Well, things are far from perfect. The economy is probably doing better than people want to give it credit for. And you know what? That really is dictating a lot of what's going on. People will ask ultimately what's going on with the foreclosures. So to give you a for instance, they peaked in 2010 at about 2.9 million properties. In 2023, there were 357,000, So probably a little more than 10%, of what we had from the worst of it. And I don't think that's going to change dramatically. Are we going to see more than last year? Probably, but just because these things are working their way through the system. One of the big reasons of that is homeowners are sitting on more cash now than they really ever had. So, you have these low interest rates. People are, cash heavy, equity heavy, in their properties. And you know what? A lot of them are able to weather the storm or sell their property and take their chunk of money and move on to something else, even though it is, with inflation, probably more expensive than what they currently have right now. The average right now of what is kind of expected through the national companies of where home appreciation will be in 2023 and 2024 is probably about between 5 and 6%. And New York, that's a national average. New York has a number of about 7.6%, at the end of 2023, which probably makes sense. So prices are going up. Rates are, relatively stable. They did dip a little bit. They're back up around that 7%. We're seeing that healthy market still demand. New York City, of course, is a huge driver. And, we're in a great place, a great area of where we are. So a couple of changes in the real estate industry in the last, actually, few days. We have now the property condition disclosure statement that now should or most likely will be filled out by all homeowners. The law changed that you are no longer able to offer the $500 out. So, we can go over this as you're starting to prep your property for sale and, speak to your attorney on it, obviously any legalese. This is a small change in there, not dramatic, but it definitely is a change nonetheless. And then, the other big thing is the headlines of the NAR settlement. So, in the industry, it's still new to see what's going to happen out there. It still has to be approved by the judge. There's a lot of moving pieces and factors to it. But in reality, I do think not much in the industry is going to change. As realtors, of course, I'm biased, but we do serve an important value. As homeowners, we're guiding you, we're getting you together, what needs to be done, and really going through the process. As buyers, one of the big things is helping you control your emotions and take your emotions out of the deal. Sometimes it's negotiating the best price, but sometimes it's just getting you the house. How do we get you set up? How do we get your recommendations for attorneys, home inspectors, and really guide you through the process? You know, my first client I'm still close with and friends with today from 20 years ago, as well as many of my clients from over the years. And it's an important process that I do really pride myself in making sure that that environment, the process is a very strong environment out there. So, you know, by all means, as you're having questions, you're seeing stuff, feel free to reach out, call, text, email, smoke signals, the Geico plane over the beach, whatever it needs to be. You know, I'm here. Reach out with questions, want to know what's going on, and I'm happy to help.